For today's Dutch Grand Prix, the Formula One teams have moved across Europe from the Styrian mountains of Austria to the wind-swept sand dunes of Zandvoort, just a few hundred metres from the North Sea. In just 7 days, they've returned to their bases, rebuilt their cars, reassembled in Holland, and practiced for today's round 13 of this year's 16-race World Championship, now with a new leader and the result far from settled. With the Austrian veteran Niki Lauda now 4.5 points ahead of his teammate Alain Prost, who in turn leads Elio De Angelis by 17 points, with René Arnoux, Nelson Piquet and Derek Warwick close behind, it looks as though one of the McLaren men must become the 1984 world champion. But which one? For Lauda means to win his third championship, as much as Prost means to become the first ever French world champion. But thanks to Prost and Lauda, McLaren are now virtually unbeatable in the Constructors' Championship. The Dutch Grand Prix has a well-earned reputation for producing close racing and unexpected results. But there's nothing unexpected about today's starting grid positions. For the 6th time this year, the front row is shared by Alain Prost and Nelson Piquet, with the Frenchman on pole thanks to a scorching 130 miles an hour average around Zandvoort's 2.6-mile lap. Elio De Angelis is third, ahead of the Renaults of Derek Warwick and Patrick Tambay, with Lauda 6th, Rosberg and Lafitte 7th and 8th, ahead of Alboreto, Fabi, Boutsen and Nigel Mansell, with Jonathan Palmer in at 22nd. Well, we're all obviously waiting for the start of what could be a crucial race in the World Championship, but the whole pit lane is agog with news that Ayrton Senna, the brilliant Brazilian driver, has signed for the John Player Special Team Lotus organisation for 1985 and 86. I understand there's going to be an official announcement on Tuesday, but from the satisfied looks on the Team Lotus team and the rather downcast expressions of the Tolman team, I can only assume that that is true. Now, the question then is, who is going to be the other driver if this news is indeed correct? Is it going to be Nigel Mansell or is it going to be Elio De Angelis? I can get no official word on that, so all I can say is watch your papers on Tuesday. The cars forming up at the back. Derek Ongaro, the British official starter, waiting to set off the Dutch Grand Prix for 71 laps. The grid official clears it. The red lights are on. Go! And out from the back comes Keke Rosberg, and Piquet leads into Tarzan from Prost, with Derek Warwick going through and passing the JPS of Elio De Angelis. It's Piquet leading, Prost second. Then it's Patrick Tambay, and Keke Rosberg is well up, and Who Broke Gatter in the Dutch orange painted Spirit is bringing up the rear.
Well, that was one of Piquet's best starts of the season, but conversely, I was watching the middle of the field and Niki Lauda was very slow away and is in fact down in something like 11th or 12th place from his 6th position on the grid. So the World Championship leader has given himself an awful lot of work to do to catch his main rival Alain Prost, who's away running in 2nd place, and that is Manfred Winkelhock's ATS that has only made it about a quarter of a mile. And whatever his trouble is, it doesn't look as if he's going to be involved for much longer. So, the World Championship, something really to think about. Prost in 2nd place, well ahead of his teammate Lauda, and look at there is Niki Lauda, and look at all that traffic he's got to deal with to get up on terms. And a bit of a little shunt there, 2 cars making contact.
Yes, it was Francois Hainaut and Eddie Cheever. Hainaut in the Ligier. There is Eddie Cheever, who's had a pretty fraught practice with turbos going left, right and centre. And now you see them going round Tarzan. They approach that at some 180 miles an hour. And there's Piquet, Prost. There's the Renault of Patrick Tambay in 3rd position. Derek Warwick then is in 5th position, as Senna goes through, chased by René Arnoux. Now, Tambay is ahead of De Angelis, who is ahead of Rosberg. There's Warwick. Then the Williams, and we are now on lap 2. Prost, Tambay, De Angelis, and Piquet going through the Marlborough Bocht, the chicane, on the 2nd lap in this 71 lap race. Great stuff going on behind these two, because now, unseen by you unfortunately, Keke Rosberg is up into third position. He has just taken Patrick Tambay as they completed the lap. And as you look at the screen, it is Piquet there, the Brazilian world champion, double world champion, leading the Dutch Grand Prix with Alain Prost, and Keke Rosberg really flying, and he was only in 15th position on the warm-up. So either the Williams team have been sandbagging and withholding their hand, or Rosberg has found some speed from somewhere totally unexpectedly, because he's up into third position.
Yes, most extraordinary. They're really flying. And I saw Frank only 15 minutes before the race started, and he was looking fairly gloomy and said to me that they were really just going for the finish. And at that stage before the race, nobody keeps their plans secret. So I think it's probably a surprise to the whole team that they've obviously done a bit of tinkering with the car and hit it right, because Rosberg is certainly flying.
Up over the East Tunnel, leaving the Marlborough Bocht behind them. That's the chicane that they're going through now. Approaching Panorama, the second of the new chicanes. So Piquet leads, Prost second, Rosberg third.
And there you see, of course, at the back of that bunch, Niki Lauda, who's, as usual, making steady but sure progress through the field. And I would anticipate that he'll be challenging Derek Warwick down the main straight with a bit of a tow. As we see now, the fast right-hander, flat out in fifth gear, onto the straight. And Lauda looks well placed to get a draft from Derek Warwick.
And what a scrap behind Keke Rosberg in third position. Here it is, and Niki Lauda is moving up through the field. He has just taken, we just saw the end of that passing manoeuvre, Derek Warwick in the Renault. Lauda, who started sixth on the grid, is moving up through the field. He's now sixth on the race, having lost some positions initially. So there is Tambay, De Angelis, Lauda, Warwick, and still Nelson Piquet leads the Dutch Grand Prix with Alain Prost, the World Championship second place holder, second.
Lauda went through that group, well, rather past Derek Warwick, with surprising ease on the straight. So Lauda will be happy that his car is quick on the straight, because that's where overtaking has to take place. Let's just watch him now with De Angelis to see, of course, both, and he's having a look down the inside for the hairpin, but I think that with that speed on the straight, if it's the same compared with everybody, Niki will be quite happy to leave his passing and just do it on the straight. He's well placed, he could even get two of them this time.
Yes, and look at this. Jacques Lafitte, in the second of these two cars, the Williams, is closing up on Derek Warwick, who's in seventh position. So the Williams situation has been transformed, with Keke Rosberg there in third position. There's Tambay fourth, Lauda going through and taking fifth place from Elio De Angelis, and right with Patrick Tambay now. The McLarens are showing their form, especially Niki Lauda. Lauda, of course, has got the goad and the incentive of knowing that Alain Prost, his teammate, but behind him now in the World Championship, is ahead of him in the race. Lauda means to catch Prost.
And as one of the Prix looks like Alboreto in the pits, Michele Alboreto, and he's getting out of the car, which usually means that's the end of the day's work for him. But Lauda is in, at the moment, disagreement with McLaren's about his terms for next season, and what he really wants to do is to win the World Championship very badly, so that he can, as it were, name his price, which at the moment they're not meeting. Well, he's named it, but they haven't agreed. And now goes Lauda, up into fifth place.
Well, Niki Lauda really is going through the field. A typically superb bit of driving, because he's now behind Keke Rosberg, who is in third position, ahead of Patrick Tambay in the Renault in fifth place, Elio De Angelis in sixth position. And although Rosberg has charged up from a lowly position on the grid up into third position, he started in seventh place on the grid, I think it's not going to be very long before the man you're looking at now, number 8, Niki Lauda, double world champion, winner of 4 Grand Prix this year, catches and passes Keke Rosberg, and then will set about catching his teammate Alain Prost. So now, on lap 9, out of 71, it's Nelson Piquet leading, it's Alain Prost second, it's Rosberg third, Lauda fourth, Torbay fifth, De Angelis sixth, Warwick there in seventh position, and behind Derek Warwick, Jacques Lafitte eighth, Ayrton Senna is ninth, Theo Fabi is 10th, Arnoux is 11th, Boutsen is 12th. Winkelhock is back into the race. Lauder is coming to the fastest part of the course, 180 miles an hour. This is where he could take Rosberg, but Rosberg's not having any of it. He slams the door firmly in the Austrian's face, retains his third position. Lauder fourth, they're breaking away a little bit from Patrick Torbay, who is in fifth position, followed by Elio De Angelis. Derek Warwick seventh, Lafitte eighth, Ayrton Senna ninth in the Tolman Heart. They go out, round the Hugenholtz, up towards the Rob Slottermacher bends, now to the daunting Skivlak, which is a fourth gear, 150 mile an hour bend, on towards the chicane, and I expect Lauder to try to take Rosberg again as they come down to Tarzan.
Yes, he's going to have to get everything absolutely spot on right as they come onto the straight. That last lap then, he was not quite as close to Keke as he would have liked to have been, and he paid the penalty because although he towed up to the back of Rosberg's Williams, he wasn't able to get past him. Now, this is where he's got to be absolutely tight on Rosberg's gearbox, and he's not.
That's a Brabham out down there. Now, is it Fabi or is it Piquet? I don't know, and I'm not going to hazard a guess. It's too important, obviously. But certainly, either Theo Fabi or Nelson Piquet are out of the Dutch Grand Prix. It looks like Nelson Piquet, in which case there's a change for leadership and a change now for what is second place. And once again, we have the McLarens in first and second places, with Alain Prost now leading on lap 12, followed by number 8, Niki Lauda. Third position is Keke Rosberg, and it's certainly Nelson Piquet who is out. And look again at the replay of Lauda taking Keke Rosberg, as we forecast at the end of the tremendously fast straight, as Nelson Piquet walks back, sadly, the reigning world champion, and that is his 9th retirement. And now, on lap 20, 71 lap race, it's still Alain Prost. Niki Lauda is chipping away at Prost's lead. It's now 4.5 seconds. It was 5 not so long ago, and Lauda has got plenty of time to catch his teammate. In third position, it's still Rosberg. Just behind Rosberg is Manfred Winkelhock, who has been lapped and is about to be caught and passed by the red-winged Renault of Patrick Torbay, 4th, Elio De Angelis 5th, Warwick 6th, Lafitte 7th, and Theo Fabi is still right up with them in 8th position. Round panorama. There's Keke Rosberg, you see. Winkelhock taken by Torbay, but not by De Angelis, as they go into Boss Sweet, and off. No, I was about to say off goes Winkelhock, as his left rear locked up, and you saw that puff of smoke, but he didn't go off. And the brave German, oops, he almost has De Angelis off the circuit.
Oh yes, he did too. Well, I think it was a little bit rash of Elio to have a look there, but Winkelhock certainly took no notice whatsoever of that attempted overtake. And here they come, and you have a look again as De Angelis a little bit headstrong that, and he could possibly have damaged the bottom of his car. They're very high, those curbs, and he bounced it around quite a lot on that curb. So he's a bit cross with Winkelhock, and brave German is very apt that Murray just described Winkelhock as, because he does drive like a huge mobile accident. I was watching him in qualifying on Friday, and he really is all over the road, but I think that's part of the German mentality, because I can't remember a German racing driver of any class who didn't feel that it was important to look brave as well as to drive fast.
Niki Lauda can now see very clearly indeed the man he is slowly reeling in, Alain Prost. There is Lauda. Look for Prost, there he is. What did I say the gap was last time? 2.9 seconds. And we are now on lap 24. Prost leading, Lauda second, Rosberg third, Torbay fourth, De Angelis fifth, Lafitte 6th, Warwick 7th, Arnu 8th.
Well, you can see, if you watch carefully, you'll see just how hard Nicky Lauda is driving. We saw him down through the long right-hander into the chicane, shortcutting over that low curve in the first section of the chicane, as all the quick men are doing. But Lauda now is turning on every ounce of his skill. He's definitely very much at 11 tenths.
And Derek Warwick, who was in 7th position, off and out with Manfred Winkelhock. There was obviously a coming together as Warwick lapped Winkelhock. And this is the leader, this is lap 30, that is Alain Prost. He's followed by Lauda. Rosberg is still soldiering on in 3rd position, but he's now some 29 seconds behind the McLaren of Alain Prost, the leader. 6 seconds ahead of Patrick Tambay, who is still 4th. Elio De Angelis is still 5th. Up into 6th position has come Nigel Mansell. So Renault-powered cars are 4th, 5th and 6th, Tambay, De Angelis and Mansell. Down to 7th has gone Arnoux. 8th is Thierry Boutsen in the Arrows BMW. And in 9th position it's Riccardo Patrese as Alain Prost takes the Ram part of Philippe Alliot. And next you will see Nicky Lauda doing exactly the same thing. And we're not yet at half distance in this race. There's Rosberg, 3rd position, headed by Lauda and Prost. And the two McLarens are over half a minute ahead of Keke Rosberg. Look in the background and we'll see how far Patrick Tambay is. Patrick Tambay is now 9 seconds behind Rosberg. So it's getting to be a pretty spread out Dutch Grand Prix with yes, over half the race distance completed now. And that is the battle I was just talking about, where with it you just saw Nigel Mansell chasing hard his teammate Elio De Angelis. And De Angelis is catching and has taken the Tyrrell as he goes into Tarzan. That'll give him a momentary respite.
Well, something very interesting just going on down beneath our commentary position in the Renault pit is that I've just seen the signaller be given an in arrow for Tambay's car. Now, that presumably means that they're planning a scheduled tyre change, and these are something that have gone out of the window a bit this year with people being able to carry enough fuel to do the whole race. So we may be seeing what would appear to be a scheduled tyre stop for Patrick Tambay. We will wait and see.
So here he is, he's coming into the pits. Patrick Tambay, you see him to the left of your picture. That means to say that up into 4th position has gone De Angelis. 5th now, there he is Nigel Mansell. And let's see how long this pit stop takes. Start the stopwatch. Furious gesticulation. The board held it out to tell Patrick Tambay to keep his brakes on so that the mechanics at the rear can get the wheel on smoothly. And they've had a bit of trouble with the left rear away. One can only describe that as a rotten pit stop, because 15 seconds, as near as makes no difference, compares with the practice times this morning of the John Player Special Team Lotus team of 7 seconds. Admittedly not in the heat of battle, but for a pit stop to take twice as long is nothing to write home about. Out goes Thierry Boutsen.
Well, if Lauda is going to make a move on his teammate Prost, it's got to be soon, because he's got to fight his way back into contention. The gap has been slipping, although just the last few laps I think Nicky's been holding it. They've got plenty of back markers around, and that's really the time that Nicky will be able to get past if he's going to. So he really needs to give it another 10/10 charge and get himself right up onto Prost's gearbox. There are the two Lotuses who will also be candidates for being lapped reasonably soon, and it's just the sort of, as cars doing their sort of speed, which is pretty close to full race pace for the McLarens, that cause the most potential trouble when being lapped. These two Lotus drivers, no doubt, well embroiled in their own personal battle, being teammates. They both have identical cars, so it's a matter of huge pride who wins, and they may not see the leaders coming if they're that embroiled.
Well, this is the bit I have been unashamedly looking forward to. There's an intense personal rivalry between number 11, Elio De Angelis, and number 12, Nigel Mansell. It seems virtually certain that one of them is going to lose his place in the team in 1985. Each will be determined that it shall be the other, and one of the ways that they will decide to resolve it is by finishing highest in the Dutch Grand Prix. And thus far, of course, Elio De Angelis has got a much better record than Nigel Mansell, largely because he has been able to finish in so many races, where Nigel Mansell has failed to finish in 8 of the 12 that have already been held. And Elio De Angelis, the lead of these two cars, who is in 4th position ahead of number 12, Nigel Mansell, 5th, is 3rd in the World Championship, 26.5 points. Nigel Mansell, 9th equal with 9. And Mansell has closed up a lot on De Angelis, who seems to have sensed the danger and is now maintaining a steady gap as the Ligier goes down into Tarzan. We are now on lap 45. You're looking at the second place man in another McLaren demonstration. And the other teams must be heartbroken. They're certainly trying, of course, in the intervals between races, to increase their speed and reliability. They're not as fast as the McLarens with their tag engines designed by the Porsche and built by the Porsche organisations. And many of them, indeed most of them, are not as reliable as the McLarens. And to have that double disadvantage must be heartbreaking, because John Barnard, Alan Jenkins, Steve Nichols and the rest of the McLaren team, led by Ron Dennis, have not relaxed one iota. They have not let the fact that they have a massive lead in the Constructors' Championship deter them from continuing to try very hard indeed. And it looks as though they're going to add an 9th victory to the 8th they've already won. And now René Arnoux has been lapped, and he's in 6th place and he's in a Ferrari.
Well, it looks as if Lauda is now unable to challenge Prost. He had a bit of a delay through that group of back markers just now, and he's now some 10 seconds behind Prost, and I rather get the feeling that he's going to go for the 6 points and possibly keep pressure on Prost if Prost has any trouble to pick up the 9, but I don't think he's going to do any sort of do-or-die effort to get past Prost. So Lauda, I think, cruising for the 6 points plus anything else he can pick up.
And this is Eddie Cheever coming into the pits. Watch the seconds tick by. Eddie Cheever, who's looking at the moment as though he's going to finish a Grand Prix, having failed to finish in 10 out of the 12 that he's already driven in this year. And Cheever is in 11th place. The race position on lap 50 with 21 to go is Alain Prost leading Niki Lauda by 10.4 seconds. And now we have some excitement because the 3rd, 4th and 5th men are together on the circuit. Here is the 3rd, it's Keke Rosberg, Elio De Angelis, Nigel Mansell. So the two JPS cars, with so much at stake, not just for the team but the drivers, have caught up to Keke Rosberg. It looks as though there's going to be a change for 3rd position very shortly. We're on now the 51st lap. And Rosberg has got the message because he's eased away just a little bit from Elio De Angelis, who, as I say, closes the gap. And there's a battle royal has developed between the Williams-Honda V6 turbo car of world champion of 1982, Keke Rosberg, with the McLaren in the background. So that must be, it is Alain Prost. Alain Prost is up to Nigel Mansell, who is in 5th position. Prost fairly scorching his way through the field now. We're going to see some real interest now, because neither Rosberg, De Angelis or Mansell are going to make it easy for Prost to get past. Therefore, Niki Lauda will be able to close, and Nigel Mansell is having a go at De Angelis. That was the way that Prost took off Piquet last year, but De Angelis kept out of Mansell's wheel tracks, and Nigel Mansell forcing his Italian teammate very hard indeed. Meantime, Niki Lauda will be seeing his opportunity. He can see that Prost is going to be held up by the two John Player special cars and by the Williams, and he will be cramming on all possible speed. So Prost leads, Lauda second. The gap now has increased to 14, as you can see, seconds, and Alain Prost is right with the third, fourth, fifth men. That's Mansell. Round the top part of the circuit, down to Panorama. This is about 160 miles an hour they're doing down to Boswheat, an increasing speed here. Rosberg, and round go Mansell and De Angelis absolutely together, and Nigel Mansell has done it. He's got ahead of his teammate. He's up into fourth position now. Prost is going to take De Angelis, who is immediately dropped back as Mansell got past him. So Prost has disposed of one of those quick men. Still in the top six they are, don't forget. And Niki Lauda's going to face a big problem.
Yes, it was quite a fraught piece of manoeuvring coming down the main straight last time. Nigel Mansell was tucked up behind De Angelis. De Angelis took to the inside to force Nigel to go the long way around, but as Nigel got sucked up in the tow behind him, he then moved over and followed Rosberg, and that got him slingshot round the outside, and Mansell was having a look down the inside. He was right on the limit of braking, but he did it. Well done, Nigel. He's a little bit slow out as a result of that very on-the-limit manoeuvre, and he's really charged up now. Mansell is having a charge, but I think that's about as far as it will go. Prost takes the opportunity to rather cheekily nip inside Keke Rosberg down into the Hunsrück, and really the superiority of the McLaren is quite clear, but on the other hand, the Williams acceleration was pretty something. Now you see, now he locks his brakes, the car gets a little bit sideways there, he gets a little bit of a twitch on, but he held it well, and he squeezed down the inside, and Nigel Mansell now moves up into third place, and a very, very good drive indeed for Mansell.
And Elio De Angelis is now dropping back past. As cars pass him, he drops back, and then he seems to get a new lease of life and charge on, having lost a lot of ground in the process. There is Nigel Mansell in third position, and he's got coming up behind him Alain Prost, who's going to, looks as though he's going to lap Nigel Mansell very shortly. So Prost leading, Lauda second. Actually, this is interesting. James was saying that Lauda has obviously settled for second and is not pressurising. Prost has obviously settled for first and is not pressurising, because he hasn't caught Nigel Mansell again to lap him twice. Nigel Mansell has unlapped himself and is now again on the same lap as Alain Prost. I'm not going to read something into it and assume that Prost has got a problem, because I have no reason to believe that he has, and the gap between Prost and Lauda is 22 seconds. So obviously both the McLaren drivers are slowing down, and Nigel Mansell has benefited from that. As into the pits comes Keke Rosberg, was in fourth position. Very hot the tyres are, of course. How is this going to affect Rosberg? Well, he's lost that place to De Angelis, and he's almost certainly lost a place to Theo Fabi. In fact, he's lost altogether, and that is his 8th retirement of the year. That means to say that now on lap 71, the last lap, because there is Alain Prost starting it. It's Prost leading, Lauda second. Another McLaren steamroller. Nigel Mansell, the only driver left on the same lap as the two all-conquering McLarens. Elio De Angelis in fourth position has been lapped. Into fifth position comes Theo Fabi, and into sixth position Patrick Tombay ahead of Francois Hainaut, Stefan Johansson, Stefan Beloff and Jonathan Palmer. And in the closing stages of the 71st and last lap of the Dutch Grand Prix, Alain Prost is coming home to make it his fifth Grand Prix win of the year, to close the gap in the World Championship between himself and his teammate Niki Lauda, who's going to finish second, to a mere 1.5 points, to increase the McLaren lead, massive lead, in the Constructors' Championship even further, and in the process to make McLaren win 9 races, 9 Grand Prix in one season, and break the John Player Special Team Lotus record of 1978. Down then from Panorama, down to Boss Wheat, out of Boss Wheat, over the line, there is the flag, the winner, Alain Prost. A dominant fifth victory of the year then for Alain Prost, with second Niki Lauda, third Nigel Mansell, fourth Elio De Angelis, fifth Theo Fabi and sixth Patrick Tombay. No change in the Drivers' Championship, although Niki Lauda now leads Prost by only 1.5 points, ahead of De Angelis, Arnoux, Piquet and Warwick. In the Constructors' Championship, McLaren increased their massive lead. Up to second come JPS, down to third Ferrari, in fourth position Renault, and in fifth place Brabham.
Nigel, an hour and a half's hard labour, how do you feel?
Only an hour and a half. I thought it was about 6 hours.
Well, in your team and in racing, you've done yourself a power of good today, but the paddock is seething with rumours that Senna is going to be driving for JPS next year, in which case one of you's out. If it's true, who is it going to be?
I'd hazard a guess that probably Ayrton Senna is going to join Lotus. As for who's leaving the team, probably there's a good possibility it will be me.
Well, if it was you, the rumours say that you might be going to Williams. What would you have to say about that?
Williams? Who are they? I don't know, Murray. It's very, very difficult at this point in time. I'm talking currently to 2 or 3 other teams, too seriously. And I should just be patient and try and do the best thing for me, for my career.
Well, I bought this in Austria last week. Fetching, isn't it? Lauda and Prost, world champions, it says. I thought then that they were being a little premature, but after what Alain Prost and Niki Lauda have done today, I don't think they are.